Morning, Juice. Tito, Bobby, Bodie, all you juicers out there in the chat. Much love to you all. Bobby, the Athletics, Manny Navarro, because we are in list season, had a list of...
Well, he was also the one that sat down with Jeremiah Smith.
Oh, you're right, he was, yeah.
He was the one that did the interview where Jeremiah Smith was talking about beating Michigan the next 2 years. He did his,
which, again, maybe 3 years, Jeremiah. If you're never after the NFL after 2 more years, you may want to stick around for another year if you want to improve your stock. He did the top 25, a list of the top 25 players in the Big Ten this season. 4 of the top 11 are from Ohio State. Jeremiah Smith was 1, obviously. Caleb Downs, 2. Checking in at number 7 is Sonny Styles. And then number 11 is Max Clare, the tight end who transferred in from Purdue. No one else. He actually went 35 deep. No other Buckeyes in the top 35 there. And I was thinking about this, Bob.
Okay. Fit-off thoughts.
Yeah, this isn't a Fitbit. This isn't a golf cart
it's a
take.
Fit-off thought. We have Tito's takes, a Fitbit, and Fit-off thoughts.
I think we've got to get sales on that because I think that could be a sponsored thing.
Oh, that definitely.
With Fitbits. Like maybe Tim Hortons wants to get involved in that.
Sure, there you go.
Tim Bits and Fitbits.
That's pretty good, Tito.
I think. I
don't know if you just came up with that off the top of your head.
I did. I was thinking about. Yeah, I think that's
pretty good.
I think that's got legs, Bob. Anyway, if Ohio State repeats as national champs this year, and this is going to be a reach, Bob, to ask you this opinion, do you think the storyline about the offense, the defense, do you think if they get there, we'll be more talking about the offense did this, or will it be more because of the defense?
Who is more responsible for the success? That's an interesting question because neither side returns any of their real difference makers other than Jeremiah Smith, and not
Caleb
that he
Downs.
wasn't, but he was a freshman. Then you have Caleb Downs, who those guys are both difference makers, but they weren't necessarily the leaders of their respective sides. I have a tendency to believe that it'll probably be more a story about the offense just because it's a new quarterback you're breaking in. But, to win a national championship, as they saw last year, I mean, there was times where, the offense made a ton of plays. There were times in games where the defense made the big plays.
Right.
So I don't know that it'll be something where it'll be totally lopsided. I would have a tendency to believe just due to the new quarterback you're breaking in.
New running backs,
it will be more of an offensive story. And you do return the core of that offensive line.
Yeah.
Which is what's really key. And so while you're patching in some new running backs and another receiver and a new quarterback, you have the engine of that offense. Whereas defensively, you're replacing a whole new defensive line.
Mm-hmm.
You have some smattering through the secondary with Jeremiah Matthews, David Sinning-Benusin, Sonny Styles, Arvell Reese played a decent amount, and then Caleb. So you have that, but I just without that engine up front, there's going to have to be a lot of movement and a lot of ground gain by those guys before you'll feel really good about them.
Have you had any conversations with Laurinaitis about, because
I've talked to him about football. So
about the challenge, because he's still, early on in this role that he's got now. It's not like he's been doing this. He hasn't been in this role for 10
years. Now
you
got to make your money. You got to coach guys who haven't played much.
Has he talked about that not struggle, but that process for him?
Coaching guys who haven't played?
Yeah, but having to after all the success they had last year, all these guys they're replacing now, it's a unique situation for him.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying he's not experienced, but he's not experienced this. He doesn't have a ton of experience doing this and being in charge of all of this. And so,
what is this?
Well, I'm saying the experience of
having to develop guys who haven't played versus guys who have been around for 3 or 4 years. Yeah, James is a teacher. That's why he comes off as such a good coach, because the way he educates and how he's able to lean in on people and relate and communicate to them. So, he was doing this with the young guys to get them to this point.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like you're going from, 3 to 10, you're already probably operating about a 7 or an 8, 6 or 7 by the time you're getting the chance to then come in and play. And it's just now tuning up and getting them experience and reps. So I joked with Vic after we graduated, and ironically, James was part of the other side of that, where, you had AJ Schleggs and I who had all played 3+ years in college football, like as significant time. I kind of started about halfway through my sophomore year, AJ's whole sophomore year. Schlegg started for 2 years at Air Force and then 2 years here. I'm like, you have guys who have played a lot of football, who've seen a lot of things. I go, now you're going to go get a chance to earn your money with James and Marcus and these slaps. And knowing that they were very talented and conscientious guys, but they just hadn't seen nearly as much. But I think coaches relish in the challenge of having a blank slate and trying to bestow their wisdom onto you and to get you to that point where then you're able to operate on your own. And so, like, Fick did that, and I think that there's kind of the same thing with James, that same feeling there that, hey, I had Cody before, and he helped Cody a lot to tune him up.
Right.
And maybe giving some nuggets to the guys prior with Tommy and Steele. But during this time, like, he's been working to develop Arvell the last couple of years, and so that he could play last year when called upon, and now he can go in there and be one of the guys. Same thing with Peyton Pierce, like working on those guys to where, like, when you're ready to go jump off the diving board, you're already at the top of the ladder. Like, you don't need to make this huge ascension. It's not this huge transformation. Just go and continue to do what you've been doing, just at a higher level.
I read an interesting piece in ESPN probably a week ago or so. They had like a thing on ESPN about the I don't want to say most surprising players or breakout players, one for each team in NFL camps. And Cody Simon was one they listed for Arizona.
Yeah,
and told how much he's been impressing and how he's been impressing the coaching staff and his work ethic and everything. And I root for that guy, man. I tell you, I hope he has a.
Cody's incredibly smart, very diligent kid. Like, he was a huge asset to here at Ohio State, and like a lot of people, a lot of the scouts kept asking the question, well, why didn't he play earlier? I'm like, do you like his film? Yeah. Do you like him as a person? Yeah. Are his numbers good enough? Sure. Then what does that matter?
Right, yeah.
Like, there are other guys that are playing, and, like, it's just how everybody has their own journey and their own path.
I know you've been, a close watcher of Sonny Styles from back in his high school days, and I'm curious your expectations of him coming to Ohio State and where he's at now, not only like position-wise, just skill-wise, though. Has he exceeded your expectations, or is this about where you thought Sonny Styles will be at this point?
Well, I think, number one, it's really tough to exceed expectations when they were as high as they were for Sonny.
Sure.
He's a kid that reclassed, came in here 5-star. His dad, his dad played. He's got a family history of all of these things. So, it's there were sky-high expectations for him, and I think he has met those. Now, he could exceed them this year. I think if he goes and has an All-American caliber season and propels himself into being a top first-roundish draft pick in the NFL. But what he's come in here, played safety, started that, transitioned to linebacker. He's incredibly smart. He's going to be one of the lead communicators on this defense. And now he gets a chance to continue to be productive. But he's so smart. Last year, people were kind of questioning, is he productive enough? I'm like, the guy was playing all three linebacker positions, which it was almost unfair to ask him to do that in his first year as a starter because, he wasn't skilled in playing linebacker. That was his first year playing that position. So to ask him to do all that, it almost was unfair. But James was like, he's the only guy that can physically do it, and he's bright enough to be able to learn it all.
Right.
And so once they were able to kind of settle him in week 3 and week 4 of just playing the same position, did it for 4 or 5 weeks, then you saw a guy who became very productive. Now this year, it's easier to move him around because he has a better feel and understanding for the position. But just asking him to do so much early just because he could mentally handle it and physically had the attributes to do it is really tough. And so he's met the expectations that I had and probably other people, maybe. I don't know. But, he's a really good player, and I expected him to be really good. Now, being great and, being a first-team All-American picture-on-the-wall guy, that's tough. And he has a year to do that. So, he still has time to probably to roll that out and continue to meet and exceed him.
Rolling through, all the different linebacker positions, that part's fascinating to me because, I didn't grow up playing the game, but a lot of people, biggest exposure maybe to football strategy might have been video games. Yeah. All you did was you took the middle linebacker, the best athlete, and just moved him everywhere to follow the ball. But to think what it's like, though, to have to go through the different assignments based on where you're at as a linebacker.
Number one, the different, the mental aptitude to know what to do.
Yeah.
And then training your eyes to read things from different positions and to react. And then the third part is the physical ability to even do it. And so people saw how big he was last year and like, oh, let's get him on the edge and have him rush. I'm like, this dude played defensive back his whole career.
Right.
He's played linebacker for a spring. And now you're saying, well, let's get him up there and get him on the line of scrimmage. Like that, we're jumping a lot of skill sets here.
Yeah.
And it takes time to master your craft with each one of those because it's very different. It's wholly unique being 12 yards off the ball to 5 yards off the ball to being on the line of scrimmage and things happening right in front of you. It doesn't mean he can't physically do it, and it doesn't mean he can't get good enough to do it, but it just takes time. And there's a finite amount of hours in the day that they're trying to teach him to play off the ball linebacker, and they're like, well, let's get him to rush because he has the physical ability to do that. Well, that's great, but it takes, and just because he knows what to do and he can learn it, mastering it and developing your technique at doing it is a whole nother deal. And that's something that now, this year, you had some spring to learn into it, learn it. We can work on it in the off season. So, he can build out that skill set in that toolbox.
It's, and I got to believe, Bob, that's when you're recruiting players, if you can show somebody who is of similar build to Sonny and plays defensive back or whatever, and you can show them.
There aren't many guys.
Well, I know I'm saying somebody who may have aspirations.
There's one guy that they have coming in that could be like that, and so he's on the Sonny Styles probably track. But
if somebody has an aspiration though to maybe someday change to that position, if that's like and they're getting
transition.
I wasn't going to say transition.
That's probably a better word.
If they wanted to,
you got to articulate and paint the picture for them.
That's what I'm trying to do now, Bob. But I got to believe that is a nice selling point if you're recruiting somebody because you can show, look, we took this guy and now he's doing this also. And now you've got a guy like Sonny Styles who's a hell of a defensive back and a hell of a linebacker. Yeah. And it just makes them more marketable. So I would think that when you're talking to recruits, you can point to this is the tape. Let's show you this.
If you're an oversized defensive back and you've kind of – the problem is most people, and even Sonny, they're like, I'm playing safety. I'm like, dude, you were 220 as an 18-year-old. You are not going to play safety the rest of your life. Maybe 25 years ago when you had safeties like Sean Taylor, but they just don't have guys that big. They make those guys linebackers now. It's just more valuable to do that. So, yes, now you have a template that you can show people how you successfully transitioned someone from one role to another.
It's a metamorphosis. Metamorphosis better than I think we should metamorphosis. I think we'll use that word.
You could cut a syllable off of it. Metamorphosis.
It's a metamorphosis. Well, metamorphosis.
Yes. Metamorphosis.
Metamorphosis isn't a word?
It's metamorphosis. Metamorphosis. Dude, you're